If you catch yourself feeling jealous of other people, what other people have, their career, their relationship, whatever you see on social media, this episode hopefully will fix it for you. I'm going to talk about it. We're going to get into it. The episode starts right now. Welcome back to the Chasing a Greater Vision podcast. I'm your host, Rickey Jasper. Today's episode on what to do when you feel jealous, because jealousy is a natural thing and it can lead us to do a lot of unnatural things that we don't necessarily want to. So as we always do at a high level, we'll run it down. Number one for the tips is see if there's a win to the jealousy thing. I'll get into that. Number two, take your time, focus on your own path. And number three, disconnect. I said, and number three, as if there's not a number four. If there is a number four, and then have an attitude of gratitude. Now, the interesting about jealousy and what I really had to do with this episode and really think is like areas where I have been jealous. And it's mostly been, I've been jealous about what someone else has, right? Not the process that they take every day, not what they do to get what they have. It's what they have. And I think that's an interesting thing, because we can look at other people and we can look at social media and we can look at people's career titles and we can look at the money that they make and we can be like, man, I really wish that I had that. But we don't want to do what they did to get there. We don't want any part of the process, because the process might not align with who we are, what we want to do, what we are enjoying, right? And where does envy show up? Where does this jealousy show up? Typically, it's workplace, it's relationships, it's social media. And I would say I'm a very competitive person. And so I tend to probably be a little bit more jealous because I'm competitive, because I'm like, oh, like it. Sometimes some things feel like a game to me when it's like, competition, when it's work, when it's fitness, all of these things, because I really like to be locked in. But I have to catch myself when it goes from just being locked in to feeling jealous about what someone else has, right? So I told this story probably when I first started this podcast with Mason. But if you're new to it, I'm going to talk about it now. I'm going to talk about it here. When Carly and I first started dating, she was making drastically more than me. She's still a director at a media company, and she was making drastically more than me. And I felt so jealous and I felt so insecure. And I was sitting back and I was like, wow, like I don't know how I'm going to be able to function in a relationship when someone else, my counterpart is making more than me. And it's like over time, what I realized is like, hey, rising tide lifts all boats. Like this helps all of us. This helps us grow a family. And that didn't, that mindset didn't hit until years down the road. And it's a really cool just dichotomy, because we both work hard. We both are very successful in our careers. And then earlier in my career, I was seeing someone who I was like, wait, I can sit back and learn from. And to add to that kind of jealousy, to add a layer to it, I had gotten a 4-year degree, worked for great companies. She dropped out of college after her second year of college, or midway through her second year of college, because she really wanted to learn about digital advertising, digital marketing. So she just went all in, right? So I'm sitting back and I'm like, I'm a male. I have that, I'm a male, and I am 3 years older than her, and I have a college degree, and she's out earning me like a crazy amount. It made me feel really jealous, but it was a beautiful thing because I had to keep myself in check. The other thing which I think is interesting is if you've ever watched this ESPN 30 for 30. There's ESPN 30 for 30, and the title is Broke. And what it is athletes who've made stupid amounts of money who've gone broke. And I've watched this series so many times, and I've watched ESPN 30 for 30 Broke so many times. And I think that it's interesting because I catch myself in that loop being like, man, I wish I had all that money. What would I do with that? But then I think I'm like, I wouldn't want to go through the process of attaining the money like they did. The amount of practices and hits and all the other things that they had to take. I'm like, I really wouldn't want that. So the whole essence of this podcast is if you're going to envy anything, envy the process. Don't envy the prize. If you can't envy the process, then the prize doesn't matter, because you're not going to want to go through the process. So a few tips so you can get locked into you, so you're not as jealous, so you can kind of put that at bay. Number one is see if there is a win. And a win is a lesson. And for me, when I talked about Carly and her career, I started really asking her questions. Hey, how did you rise from being where you were to a director and all of this other type of stuff? And I realized that I learned a lot from her. I learned a lot about, temperament in the workplace. I learned a lot about really navigating the corporate landscape, things that I like really just thought that I had on lock, and that she was like, well, this is how I do things. This is what I value. This is how I am in conversations. This is what I look out for. This is what I have conversations with people with, so that I can, and this is what I view from an organizational standpoint, so that I can get from point A to point B and get my team from point A to point B. And there was so many things in there where I'm like, wait a second, this is a win. Sometimes the people that you're jealous of are in a place, in an area that you really actually want to get to, and you might want to just have a conversation with them, because the process that they tell you, if that excites you, then that's where you want to be. Then be envious of the process, and then learn the process, because that is a win, right? For me, from a fitness standpoint, I love all things fitness. My brother is a phenomenal, the new coin term, hybrid athlete, right? Functional training athlete and everything. He's a far better functional training athlete than I am. I grew up playing basketball and all this other type of stuff. That functional training, running, this stuff is new to me. I grew up doing basketball, then bodybuilding, right? So what I've done now is like, hey, instead of being in comparison mode, like, I have conversations. I ask him questions. I ask him questions about the process. And there are some things that he's doing that I'm like, oh, I just don't want to do because it doesn't align with my life. And so I don't envy any outcome that he has that's better than mine, because I'm like, hey, we're not in competition. I'm not going to envy any outcome, because I didn't envy the process that it took to get that outcome. So if I did that process and got that outcome, it'd be doing a process that I don't want to do, right? But there are some things that I really enjoy now, as you all have seen it. I love running. I really enjoy running. So I'm sitting back and I'm like, hey, whatever you do running, like, tell me how your workouts, like your splits, like these things, because I'm like, I want the process of this, because it's hard, it's fun, but I really, really enjoy that. As I've said, like, a rising tide lifts all boats. When it comes to being envious of someone's process, think of it as a team aspect. Now, Carly and I are married. Like, now we are a team aspect. We focus on doing the things that we can do to lift all boats, and we learn from each other. There's no envy, there's no jealousy. We learn from each other. When I have a career question, or hey, I need to run something by her, this is how I'm viewing it, because I know that you're better in this area. Boom, help me out, and vice versa, right? So see if there is a win, because a win equals a lesson. Number 2, take your time and carve your own path. So the one thing that you all see is that I love tech, and I also love content, right? So in order for me to go down my own path, like, I really had to get very much in tune with who I was and who I am, and understand my brand, right? And so when you do that, you really have to focus on you. You can't be watching what everybody else is doing all the time, because if you're doing that just to model and mimic someone else, then you lose who you are. It's like that silent time. When I do my devotion in the morning, I really have to have my phone away from me, basically turn it on airplane mode, have no sort of technology, because I'm like, I need some silent time to focus, to see where my mind is actually flowing, to see where my thoughts are at, to see what I need to pray about. And I need that silent time to really, really lock in. If you don't have the silent time, and you're just so bombarded by what everybody else is doing, then you lose the essence of you. And you, from a jealousy standpoint, you don't even give yourself a chance to fulfill your full potential, because you don't know what your full potential is, because you're not in tune with you. You have to be in tune with you. Like I said, I love branding. I love content creation. And I realize, like, that just is what it is. Like, I'm going to continue to do that. And it's because, and I'm not going to try to do it like everybody else. There's some people and models that I really, really enjoy. But I take the process that I like that they're doing, and I put it into something that I want to do that's fully authentically me. Nothing that you see online from me is going to be a phony or a fake thing. You're going to get 100% me, because it's like, at the end of the day, this is who I am. This is my own path, and I am going to live, succeed, pass or fail by who I am, and not just by somebody else's, because you can't keep up the fakeness about being someone else for too long. So take your time and take your own path. Number 3, disconnect. Sometimes you just have to disconnect. Sometimes if you are too wrapped up in jealousy and in following somebody's life on social media, following somebody's career, following somebody's fitness journey, whatever it is, sometimes you have to take some time to disconnect. And that's not a bad thing, because what I've realized is that I'm a very, very focused person. And so for me, I can get focused on something and just be locked in and it'd be really good, or I can be focused on something that's like it just doesn't matter at all, and I just whatever, right? But when you disconnect, you realize that you're multidimensional and that whatever you're focusing on doesn't necessarily matter so much, right? So if you are finding yourself being jealous about someone in a workplace that you are just like, man, I wish I had that title or whatever, but you aren't able to take a step back and look at yourself, look at your life and say all of the dimensions of your life that matter, that are important, that you actually want to improve on, you're going to get so locked in onto this one thing, it's going to consume the rest of your life and it's going to mess up every other aspect of your life that you actually genuinely care about. For me, when it comes to fitness, like I really, really love fitness, but I sit back and I'm like, well, I want to do other high rocks competitions. I want to do, marathons and half marathons and all of this stuff. But when it comes to life things that are also important, some things that Carly and I are doing, some podcasting, some filming, some business things that we're doing, like those things don't always fully align and I can't do everything. And so if I'm sitting back and I'm saying, well, I'm just so fixated and jealous of the people that can do all of these things, what I'm doing is I'm neglecting everything else that I have going in life. And I'm neglecting how multidimensional I am. You are a multidimensional person. You have a lot going for you. If you're watching this, if you're blessed enough to be watching this video on a device, you got some opportunities and some options in your life and some things that you can do that are outside of just one simple or one thing, right? So don't get so wrapped up in what everybody else is doing all the time. Take some time to disconnect. Allow yourself to flow into the other dimensions of your life that you find that are important. And number 4, very easy, have an attitude of gratitude. When it comes to being jealous, it comes from having a mindset that you're lacking something. If you feel like you're lacking something, you feel like, hey, I don't have what I need to survive and go through this life. Sometimes you have to take a step back and look at your life and just be appreciative of what you have. And I know that is a cliche thing. I probably said it on multiple other episodes, but it's so true, because half the time when I'm doing these episodes, I'm speaking to myself. Having an attitude of gratitude, being appreciative of where you are, being appreciative of what you have, being appreciative of your health, of your family, of the people around you that care. And even if no one, around you feel like cares, having the opportunity to go and make those connections. Being appreciative of just the basic, I'm able to wake up in the morning and take a deep breath. That's a huge thing. Having an attitude of gratitude will get you from being so jealous about stuff to locking you into a really good place that you need to be. So these are the things to do when you feel jealous, when you feel like it's overwhelming you because you're just so annoyed about maybe what someone else has, their relationship, their career, their title, anything like that. Number 1, see if there's a win-win. See if you can learn from that person, from their process. If you like that process, go through that process and add your own flavor to it. Number 2, take your time and carve your own path. We are not in a race against anybody else. If you are too focused on somebody else's race, if you are looking to the right or to the left or behind you on somebody else's race, you are not focused fully in front of you on your own race and on your own time. Number 3, disconnect. Sometimes if you just get a little too overwhelmed, you have to disconnect so you can get some peace and quiet, some silence, and get in tune with who you are, what you want to do. And number 4, have an attitude of gratitude. We all have something to be thankful for. What I'm thankful for might be different than what you're thankful for, but we have something to be thankful for. Do what you can, what you have, and be thankful for where you are on a daily basis. Those are my dogs barking. We're just going to get that in the film, and we're just going to keep it rolling because sometimes that's what happens, and we cut it out sometimes, but we don't. We're not going to today because I was on a roll and I was flowing. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and we will see you in the next episode. Peace. For free resources, paid resources, and one-on-one coaching with me directly for fitness coaching and performance coaching using my life coding system, go to RickeyJasperII.com, and I will see you there, and we'll talk directly, and we'll make it happen.